Hello and I welcome you all to another exciting episode on the Tech Blackboard. This is our part 5 of our AZ-900 real exam question and answer series. In this part, we are going to cover question number 56 to question number 70, a total of 15 questions. In the earlier 4 parts, we have already covered from question number 1 to question number 55. If you have missed watching all these 4 parts, I strongly recommend that go ahead and watch these 4 parts as well. Because in these 4 parts, I have taken and explained many of the concepts that will give you a sound understanding and a solid base to clear AZ-900 exams with really good marks. For now, let's get started with our part 5. So let's begin our part 5 with question number 56. The question says that you plan to provision infrastructure as a service resources in Azure. Which resource is an example of IaaS? Is it an Azure web app or Azure virtual machine or Azure logic app or Azure SQL database? Now here on the Microsoft side, you can see the details about infrastructure as a service. As you scroll down, you will see the section which lists all the services and products which are counted as infrastructure as a service. You can see there is a compute, storage, networking, security, and a lot more. If you click on compute, you will come to this page, and here you can find virtual machines. So this means that virtual machines are infrastructure as a service. Thus, the correct answer for question number 56 is B, an Azure virtual machines. Friends, if you want the PPT that I am using in part 5, then you have to tell me the answer for question 58, 63 and 68 in the comment section below. And I will send you the PDF file of this part 5 PPT. You can use this PDF file to make your learning offline as well. Let's jump to our question number 57. The question says that you plan to migrate a web application to Azure. The web application is accessed by external users. You need to recommend a cloud deployment solution to minimize the amount of administrative effort used to manage web application. What should you include in the recommendation? Should it be software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, or database as a service? The correct answer for question number 57 is platform as a service, because web applications in Azure are deployed in app services. Let me tell you more about app services. So Azure App Services is a platform as a service offering that lets you create web and mobile apps from any platform or device and connect to data anywhere, in cloud or on premise. App services include web and mobile capabilities that were previously delivered separately as Azure websites and Azure mobile. So you can see that web applications in Azure are deployed in Azure App Services, which in turn are platform as a service. Thus, the correct answer is platform as a service. Now let's move on to our question number 58. Question number 58 says, in which type of cloud model are all the hardware resources owned by a third party and shared between multiple tenants? Is it private cloud, hybrid cloud, or is it public cloud? If you have watched my all parts, by now you would be easily able to answer this question. Whenever we are talking about private cloud, as the name suggests, it is private. It is our own. We are not sharing it with any other third party. Hybrid cloud is a combination of private and public, where some of the resources are exclusive for us. That means they are private to us. However, some of the resources are on public cloud and shared with other tenants. Coming to the public cloud, in public cloud we are sharing all the hardware resources with other multiple tenants as well. And all the hardware resources are actually owned by the third party, or in other words, the cloud provider itself. Thus, the correct answer for this one is public cloud. Now let's check out question number 59. The question says, an Azure web app that queries an on-premise Microsoft SQL Server is an example of a cloud. So is it an example of private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, or multi-vendor cloud? The answer for this question is a hybrid cloud. The reason of choosing hybrid cloud over public or private cloud is hidden in the question itself. So if you take a closer look at the question, it says that an Azure web app that queries an on-premise Microsoft SQL Server. The first keyword you need to pay attention is an on-premises Microsoft SQL Server. So one element that we have is an on-premise. Then we have an Azure web app. So now you can see there is one component web app which is deployed on Azure, and the other component Microsoft SQL Server which is deployed on premise. Thus it is a combination of both public and private components. That's why we have chosen a hybrid. I hope you understand the logic behind choosing hybrid cloud. Now let's move to question number 60. The question says that which cloud deployment solution is used for Azure Virtual Machines and Azure SQL Database. To answer the question, select appropriate options in the answer area. Now as you can see, this question has two elements. The first one is Azure Virtual Machines and the second one is Azure SQL Database. So you have to tell whether Azure Virtual Machine is a software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, or database as a service. Similarly, for Azure SQL Database as well, you have to tell whether it's a software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, or database as a service. So let me give you the answer. So answer for Azure Virtual Machine is infrastructure as a service. In the very first question of this part 5, that was question number 56, I elaborated why Azure Virtual Machines are counted as infrastructure as a service. So go and check out that question once again if you have forgotten the logic. Coming to SQL database, if you have watched our part 3, in question number 32, I explained in a very detailed form that why Microsoft SQL database is taken as PaaS service. Now let's move to question number 61. You plan to provision infrastructure as a service resources in Azure. Which resource is an example of IaaS? Is it Azure Web App, Azure Virtual Machine, Logic App, or Azure SQL Database? The answer for this question is Azure Virtual Machine. Friends, sometimes I'm repeating the questions. This repetition is intentional. The reason being that repetition makes you understand the logic and it imprints the answer in your brain. So whenever you're going to attempt the Microsoft AZ-900 examination, this repetition will help you recall the answers quickly. Coming to question number 62. The question says, an Azure web app that queries an on-premise Microsoft SQL Server is an example of a cloud. Is it private, public, hybrid, or multi-vendor? Again, a repeat question because of the fact that we want to repeat important questions so that it's easier for you to recall in the exam. Again, just to give you a hint, it's a combination of Azure resource, a web app, and an on-premise resource, which is Microsoft SQL Server, thus making it a hybrid. The correct answer is hybrid. Moving on with question number 63. You have 1000 virtual machine hosted on Hyper-V host in a data center. You plan to migrate all virtual machines to an Azure pay-as-you-go subscription. Which expenditure model should you identify? Now friends, I have told you many times, whenever you see pay-as-you-go in the question, you can always relate that to operational expenditure. So the correct answer for question number 63 is operational. Moving on to question number 64. It's a yes and no question. The first statement says that Azure pay-as-you-go pricing is an example of CapEx. We just saw and I told you that pay-as-you-go is always related to operational cost. Thus, the answer for this statement is no. Then, paying electricity for your data center is an example of OpEx. The answer for this one is a yes. The reason being that whenever we are talking about recurring cost, for example, paying your electricity bill, paying your mobile bill, these kinds of costs are recurring cost. And these costs are based on your consumption. So this is also pay as you go. Thus, it should be OpEx, and that's the correct answer as well. Then the third statement says deploying your own data center is an example of CapEx. Of course, the answer is correct or a yes. The reason being that whenever you're deploying a data center, it includes high upfront cost. And upfront cost is nothing but CapEx. Thus, the answer is a yes. One pro tip to distinguish between OpEx and CapEx is always keep in mind that whenever you're talking about a cost which is recurring in nature, that is always OpEx or operational cost. However, upfront costs are always categorized as CapEx or capital expenditure. I hope this helps you answering the questions. Now let's quickly jump to question number 65. To which cloud models can you deploy physical servers? Can you deploy on public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and public cloud? Or you can deploy only on hybrid cloud? Or is it public cloud and hybrid cloud? Now, physical server are considered as on-premise as well. So in public cloud, you don't have any physical servers or you do not have any physical server on-premise. Everything is on cloud. Thus, this is not a correct option. Now in part B, we have given all types of clouds. So we cannot choose this part as well because in public cloud, we cannot deploy physical servers. Hybrid cloud only. Now you can see that it's only talking about hybrid cloud. Of course, we can deploy physical servers in hybrid cloud as well because it's a combination of private and public cloud. So on private part, you can deploy your physical servers. But saying that only hybrid cloud is not a correct option. In part D, you are given with private cloud and hybrid cloud. And by now, you very well know that we can deploy physical servers both in private cloud and in hybrid cloud. Thus, the correct answer is option D. Moving on with our question number 66. This says that your company plans to migrate all its data and resources to Azure. The company's migration plan states that only PaaS solution must be used in Azure. You need to deploy Azure environment that meets the company's migration plan. The solution is that you create an Azure App Service and Azure SQL database. Does this meet the goal? The answer to question number 66 is yes. The reason being that both App Service and Azure SQL database are considered as PaaS offering. Thus, making the combination of both is also a PaaS offering. So it's a yes. Moving on with question number 67. In this we have that your company plans to migrate all its data and resource to Azure. The company's migration plan states that only PaaS solution must be used in Azure. You need to deploy an Azure environment that meets company's migration plan. The solution given is that you create an Azure App Service and Azure Virtual Machine that have Microsoft SQL Server installed. Now you can see that question number 67 is similar to question number 66. The difference between both the question is the solution. In question number 65, now we are given with Azure App Service and Azure Virtual Machine that have Microsoft SQL Server installed. Now do not get confused because in this also we have Microsoft SQL Server and App Service. And in here also we have App Service and Azure SQL database. Now, in first glance, they both look similar, but pay attention. Here we have also virtual machines. Whenever we have virtual machine, you can always be sure that we also have an element of infrastructure as a service. So now you can see that one part is infrastructure as a service and the other part is PaaS. However, the combination of both will not make it a PaaS offering on a whole. Thus, the correct answer for question number 67 is a no. Moving on with our question number 68. Your company plans to migrate all its data resource to Azure. Now, I will not read the question again because it's similar to 66 and 67. Let's jump to the solution directly. It says that you create an Azure virtual machine and Azure storage account. Again, Azure Virtual Machine is always equal to infrastructure as a service. Thus, the combination of both does not make a PaaS. So, the answer for this question is a no as well. Now, let's begin with our question number 69. The first statement says, to achieve a hybrid cloud model, a company must always migrate from a private cloud model. Pay attention that this talks about always. So it's not always necessary that you have to migrate from a private cloud model to achieve a hybrid cloud model. In the other cases, you can actually start from a public cloud model and add your own premises, network capabilities, or hardware capabilities and become a hybrid model. So it's not always necessary to migrate from a private cloud model. Thus, the answer for this statement is a no. Moving on with the second statement. It says that a company can extend its capacity of internal network by using a public cloud. So the answer for this statement is a yes. Of course, a company can extend its internal network by using public cloud, and thus it becomes a hybrid cloud model because now it's using both public cloud and internal network capabilities. Moving on with the third statement, it says that in a public cloud model, only guest users at your company can access the resources in cloud. The answer for this statement is a no, because not only guest users but anyone who has access to the Active Directory can be given access to the resources in your cloud. Thus, the answer is a no. Moving on to question number 70, which will be the last question for part 5. The first statement says a platform as a service solution provides full control of operating system that hosts applications. The answer for this one is no. Why? Because behind the scene, platform as a service which provides you a platform but it doesn't gives you a real control over operating systems. So the answer is no. The second statement says platform as a service solution provides additional memory to apps by changing pricing tier. Before answering this statement, I would like to read the third statement as well. A platform as a service solution can automatically scale the number of instances. Now, to answer both of these statements, I will take you to the Microsoft site. Here I am on the Microsoft site that talks about scale up an app in Azure App Service. There are two important concepts here. First one is scale up and second one is scale out. Scale up actually relates to more CPU, memory, disk space, and extra features like dedicated virtual machines, custom domains and certificate, staging slot, auto scaling, and many more. Important here in scale up is that you can add CPU, memory, and disk space along with extra features. So keep that in mind. Coming to scale out means increase the number of VM instances that run your app. Keep this word instances in mind when we will reach to the PowerPoint again. Reading out, you can scale out as many as 30 instances depending upon your pricing tier. That's another keyword that you need to keep in mind. So first keyword was instances, and the second keyword is pricing tier. Now let's jump back to our PPT. As we learned from the Microsoft side, scale up means adding more memory to the apps by changing pricing tier. So the platform as a service does provide this feature. So the answer for this one is yes. Then we also learned about scale out. Scale out means scaling or increasing number of instances in your app. Then we learned about scale out, which talks about scaling your applications by adding number of instances. And that's exactly what this statement demands. Thus, the answer for this statement is a yes as well. So this brings to an end of our 15 question series of part 5. I hope you liked the set of 15 questions that we covered in part 5. If you have any specific question that you want to discuss, then do let me know in the comment section below, and I will answer all of your questions. If this video has added any value in your learning, a like and subscribe is highly appreciated. Share this video in your family and friends to spread and expand their learning. Your comments and feedback give me a chance to interact with you, and I look forward for them. We will meet again in our next video. Till then, stay fit, keep learning, and thanks for watching.